My daughter-in-law kicked me out of the house over $75 million, but she had no idea that on that very day, her entire life had already begun to crumble. You wouldn't believe how cruel a person can be to an aging mother-in-law just because she thinks she's about to touch $75 million. But what turns everything upside down is this. The truth is far more bitter than greed itself, and the cruelest one is always the one who pays the highest price. If you want me to continue this story, leave a comment or hit subscribe. You won't want to miss what happens next. I never imagined I would find myself standing in the middle of a cold, merciless night, rain soaking through my clothes, holding nothing but an old canvas bag, thrown out of my own home by the woman who married my son. But everything began the moment Madison convinced herself she was about to inherit $75 million. A number big enough to turn an ordinary person into a monster of greed, and a peaceful family into a battlefield. I am a dark-skinned American woman, a widow for more than 15 years. For a long time, I chose a quiet life, far from the noise of the business world. My family believed I was poor, surviving on my son's modest income. I wore old clothes, lived simply, ate what was available, and always asked permission before touching anything in the house. It made them think I needed protection, that I was fragile, that I had nothing valuable left in my life except my age. Madison, my daughter-in-law, always looked at me with a mix of pity and contempt. She rarely confronted me directly, but I heard enough to know she called me a burden, someone who brought nothing to the household. Many times, I wondered why my son, Ethan, chose a woman whose heart was colder than steel and whose voice could cut flesh cleanly. But I didn't want conflict. I stayed silent. I cooked dinner, folded their laundry, cleaned the kitchen, believed that gentleness could keep a home together. I truly thought kindness might eventually reach Madison. But then that day came, and no kindness was strong enough to stop what followed. That afternoon, Madison came home with the expression of someone who had just won the world. The door slammed open so hard the entire frame trembled. Her heels struck the wooden floor like she was stepping into a throne room. In her hand was a large yellow envelope. I looked up from the dish towel and quietly asked, "Is everything all right, Madison?" She stared at me with sparkling, feverish excitement. "All right? No. Perfect. I just got the notice. I'm an heir. $75 million. I froze. Not because of the amount, but because of her tone. Arrogant, intoxicated, icy. As if the moment she had money, the whole world should bow. Madison spun around the house like she was redesigning her entire life in seconds. "Angela, you need to understand something. This house is going to change. I don't need your poor energy in my home." I felt each word like a blade sliding under my skin. Ethan walked in right after, confused but silent. Madison grabbed his hand, tightening it like reins on a horse. "I don't want your mother living here anymore. We need a new life. If she contributes nothing, she can't stay." I looked at my son. In his eyes, I saw weakness, dependence, fear of Madison, more than love for me. And then Madison delivered the blow that cracked my heart open. "You need to leave. Tonight." Outside, the rain began to fall. The first drops hit the windows like warning shots. I didn't argue, didn't cry, didn't beg for one more night. I simply picked up my old canvas bag. Madison pulled open the door so sharply that a gust of wind whipped into the living room. "Go," she said. "I don't want to see you again." I stepped out. The door slammed behind me. The sound felt like the earth sealing a coffin. Rain drenched my hair, my clothes, the lines on my face carved by time. I walked toward the bus stop, the streetlights casting a lonely yellow glow through the storm. There were no cars, no voices, only the rain and the heavy thumping of my own heart. When I sat down on the freezing metal bench, my hands trembling, I heard footsteps approaching. Slow, deliberate. I didn't look up until a deep, familiar voice said, "Ma'am, you shouldn't be here." I gasped and lifted my head. Under the flickering streetlight, his face came into focus. Marcus, my former attorney, the man who once stood by my side through the highest points of my business life. "Marcus, how are you here?" I whispered. He stepped closer. rain dripping from his dark coat. "You were thrown out, weren't you? I know what happened, and I'm here for a reason. Things are about to change." I stared into Marcus's eyes, and in that moment, I knew my life had just crossed into a different world, a world Madison never imagined existed. And everything was only just beginning. I will never forget the moment Marcus stood in front of me under the dim yellow streetlight at the bus stop that night. The rain kept hammering the metal roof above us, cold and heavy, but in his eyes, I saw something fiercer than the storm itself, the truth I had hidden for 2 decades. And the truth Madison never imagined existed. Marcus lifted my canvas bag for me and spoke slowly, as if each word carried the weight of a secret locked away for far too long. "Angela, she isn't just greedy, she signed papers she didn't understand, and that will make her pay." My heart sank. I didn't hate Madison, not even after the way she treated me. But as Marcus spoke, I knew her path ahead would not simply be losing money or losing a marriage. It would be deeper, darker. "Tell me exactly what she's done, Marcus," I asked. Marcus opened his leather briefcase and pulled out a thick stack of documents, the ink still smelling fresh. A high-level scam ring targeted Madison. They made her believe she was inheriting $75 million, then tricked her into signing asset transfer contracts and laundering transactions under her name. It wasn't just foolish, it was criminal. I felt the blood drain from my face. I had seen plenty of scams in my business years, but I never expected one to crash through my family's front door, and she thought I was the burden. I exhaled. Marcus placed a firm hand on my shoulder. "The cruelest part is, she threw out the only person who could save her. Angela, you're not just wealthy. You hold the key to exposing this entire organization, and you need to return. The truth must be shown." Before I could answer, lightning tore across the sky, and in that moment, I knew my life was stepping into a new chapter. No longer the quiet mother who swallowed pain. No longer the old woman people dismissed. I had to return to who I truly was. The next morning, Marcus took me to the police station. Everything Madison had signed was laid out in front of us, perfectly aligned, a map of greed, ignorance, and cruelty she hid behind a polished facade. The officers did not look at me with pity, as Madison always assumed. They looked at me with respect. They knew who I once was. They knew the name Angela Nelson still carried weight in the business world. "Are you ready?" Marcus asked as we got into the car. I nodded. It's time for Madison to face the truth. When we arrived at the house, neighbors had already gathered. News spread like wildfire, and everyone wanted to witness what happens when the neighborhood's perfect daughter-in-law hears the knock of the law. I stepped out of the car, the wind brushing my hair back, and for the first time in many years, I did not lower my head. Madison opened the door. Her face went pale the moment she saw me with 2 officers behind me. "Angela, what are you doing here?" Her voice trembled, no arrogance, no coldness left. Marcus raised the file. "Madison Harper, you are under investigation for asset fraud, forgery, and participation in illegal financial activities." I didn't know. I thought it was inheritance money," Madison cried out. I stepped closer to her. "You threw me out of this house over money that was never yours. You let greed destroy everything that held this family together." "Ethan," Madison turned desperately to her husband. "Say something. I did it for our future." Ethan stood halfway down the stairs, his face shadowed, but his eyes filled with disappointment. "Madison, my mother did nothing wrong. But you threw her out over an illusion. I can't defend you anymore." Madison broke down in tears, but it was too late. The officers stepped forward and handcuffed her. The cold metal clicking shut marked the moment Madison lost everything. Her money, her reputation, her marriage, her freedom. As the police car pulled away, Madison turned back to me, tears mixing with the rain, her lips trembling. "Angela, please, don't let them convict me." I answered with a truth I had carried my whole life. Justice waits for no one, and you chose this fate the moment you threw me out. The door closed, the car rolled away, and Madison disappeared from my life. I stood there in the soft rain, no longer the old mother-in-law people pitied, but the woman I once was. Angela Nelson. A woman who built an empire. A woman Madison never understood she was confronting. My son walked toward me and pulled me into a tight embrace. "Mom, I'm sorry. I let everything go too far." I stroked his hair like he was still the little boy he used to be. "You don't owe me anything. From now on, we start again." And in that moment, I knew a new chapter had opened, not for Madison, but for me. My life didn't fall apart the night Madison threw me out, but her life began collapsing from that exact moment. After Madison was convicted and everything quieted down, I moved into a small house overlooking the lake, where the morning light shimmered on the water like a reminder that life can restart whenever you choose. I founded a charity for older women facing emotional abuse, and Ethan often came to help on weekends. No more pain, no more silent endurance, only the peace I fought for and reclaimed. My ending wasn't revenge, it was freedom. And sometimes, justice is the final light that guides you back to yourself.